In this podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit more about online discussions. If you remember from the expert panel, all of us talked about the value of online discussions in our courses. And you notice in my course that I have established some guidelines that I hope folks will follow in order to have an effective discussion take place online. In order to help people be accountable to the discussions throughout the week, I also have a self-reporting rubric that I call the discussion reflection that I have students complete at the end of each week. All of this is self-reporting. All of this is intended simply to be a guide to help people move into participating in online discussions. I have found that early participation in a discussion, providing responses to prompts that have already been posted, and posting your own prompts and questions are keys to success in online discussions. I like to keep in mind that this generally works across all age levels. I've used this with middle school students, with some elementary students, and obviously up through graduate students. One thing that I recognize, though, is that there are a group of learners that tend to be more lurkers than active participants, even in discussions. I've read some research that indicates that people who are lurkers still gain knowledge from that activity rather than participating directly in discussion. If I have someone like that in one of my courses and I see that they're not participating in discussion, I will message them and carry on a private conversation with them. And if we determine that they are truly a lurker by nature, I will allow them to continue to be a lurker and not participate directly in discussion. But I do hold them accountable for the content that's taking place in the discussion by still completing some sort of a rubric, giving me a summary of what the discussion was about, maybe even having a one-on-one conversation with me. That seems to help those folks who are more lurker in nature. The other thing that I have to keep in mind with online discussions is that oftentimes when I jump into a discussion, people view that as the definitive final answer, so I tend to not participate in discussions for that very reason. There's a balance between my involvement as an instructor and then allowing students to really own the discussion and the content and the learning. So that's why I tell people in my online courses that I'm a lurker. I will sometimes post messages back to a discussion group, but I always encourage people to invite me into a discussion if there are specific questions that they have. I hope this explains a bit more about discussions, and if you have any more questions, please let me know. Thanks.